Hello and welcome to DOZ Monologues, hosted by Eturuvie Erebor. DOZ Monologues, also known as DOZ Chronicles Audio Stories, aims to educate, inspire, and drive societal change. All stories are written and narrated by Eturuvie Erebor, and all rights are reserved, including the right of reproduction in whole or in part in any form. This is episode 18, titled Pride and Humility. If you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe, like, and share. Thank you. Pride and Humility. Yesterday, I saw Queen for the first time in 25 years. Our meeting happened by chance, and I could not help but gasp in shock at the sight of her. My mind drifted back to our first meeting at Aunty Amarachi's house. She was 18 and I was 17. We both worked as maids. Queen disliked thinking of herself in that way. She was a young girl who wanted more out of life and believed she had the potential to achieve it. Her reluctance to see herself as a maid and to behave accordingly led Aunty Amarachi to seek me out. I lived in the village with my older brother, Nonso, who is 10 years older than me. We were the only two surviving children of our mother, and our family was poor. After our mother's death, Nonso became my guardian, and he sacrificed his own dreams of marriage to support my secondary education, even though he had been unable to finish secondary school himself before pursuing vocational training as a mechanic. We were so poor that I never imagined I could go to university, even though I passed my secondary school certificate exam. The plan was for me to learn a trade so I could start working and support myself, which would allow Brother Nonso to marry and focus on raising a family with his limited finances. Unfortunately, money was not readily available for me to learn a skill. However, Brother Nonso was negotiating with one of the village's top seamstresses when Aunty Amarachi reached out to him. She asked him to persuade me to come live with her family in the city and help with housework. He saw this proposal as a godsend, and that was how he relayed it to me. "Isioma, I have something important to tell you," he said on that fateful day after our morning devotion, just before leaving for his mechanic workshop. "What is the matter, Brother Nonso?" I asked, a little worried as he looked grim, causing me to wonder if I had done something wrong. "God has answered our prayers and sent us help," he informed me. "Aunty Amarachi, our mother's relative, has invited you to come and live with her in the city to look after her home and children." "Praise God," I exclaimed, thrilled at the prospect of living in the city with someone like Aunty Amarachi, who was the wealthy relative in the family. "It is a rare opportunity," he said. "I want you to see it this way and treat it with honor. Aunty Amarachi has remembered us for the first time since our mother passed away 5 years ago. Let's use this opportunity wisely. She has agreed to send you to learn a skill, which will be beneficial for you when you are no longer living with her." I nodded enthusiastically to show that I understood and agreed. Brother Nonso had done his best and was now handing me over to Aunty Amarachi, who would continue from where he left off and also allow him to pursue his own dreams. "Don't abuse this opportunity as Queen has done," he said. I frowned because I didn't understand what he meant. "Who is Queen, Brother Nonso?" "Queen is a girl from the neighboring village, but she lives in the city, and that is where Aunty Amarachi met her," he told me. "Her name is Queen, and she acts like a queen who takes no instructions from anyone. Aunty Amarachi has said that the girl has been a thorn in her side from day one, and after 3 months, she is now forced to look for a replacement. She hired Queen out of desperation, doing so through her pastor. The pastor made Queen feel as if she were doing Aunty Amarachi a favor and gave her a long lecture about not seeing herself as a housemaid, but rather as someone supporting a member of the church who was in a difficult situation. Brother Nonso paused to let his words sink in. I understood why he felt the need to provide me with detailed information about the girl named Queen, whom I had yet to meet. You are not Queen. Although Aunty Amarachi is a relative of ours, you are not going to her as a family member. Aunty Amarachi did not reach out to me, saying she was looking for a relative to come and live with her. Instead, she contacted me to request a housemaid. Isioma, you will be serving as a house help for Aunty Amarachi. When you go to stay with her, please remember this and act accordingly. Humble yourself, and in due time, if God sees fit, He will exalt you. Do you understand? Yes, Brother Nonso, I said. I understand. Don't worry, I won't shame you or our parents. I will work hard and serve Aunty Amarachi well. Good. He sounded and looked pleased. That is exactly what I want to hear. Remember, there is no place for you to return to. Once you leave, I will marry and start my family. So make sure they don't send you back, because there will be no place for you here. I understood my situation and communicated it to Brother Nonso. Nevertheless, he still felt compelled to offer me last-minute advice that weekend when Aunty Amarachi came to pick me up. I was already seated in the car, with Aunty Amarachi at the wheel, when he asked me to roll down the window on my side. Isioma, remember to serve Aunty Amarachi and her family well, and God will bless you, he said. Don't be prideful. We have nothing. Avoid telling lies, stealing, and associating with bad friends. Focus on the tasks assigned to you, and be obedient at all times. Go well, and may God be with you. I expect to hear only good reports about you. I couldn't speak, so I just nodded, tears filling my eyes as the car drove away. I turned my head and waved frantically until he was out of sight. Then I turned back in my seat, looking ahead at the life that awaited me. Will you be able to stay without your brother, Isioma? Aunty Amarachi asked as she left the dirt road and entered the expressway leading to the city. Immediately, I wiped my tears and smiled to reassure her. Yes, ma, I affirmed. I can stay without my brother, and I know how to care for babies and do housework. She laughed then, revealing her warm side, and I relaxed. As we arrived in the city and approached the house, she told me about Queen. Queen will be here for another month to teach you how things are done around the house, she said. Learn the activities from her, but don't adopt her attitude, as that is why she is leaving. If you become as difficult as she is, I will have no choice but to send you away. I promised her, just as I had promised my brother, that I would never behave like Queen. I was eager to meet the much talked about house help and understand why my brother and Aunty Amarachi spoke of her as they did. Finally, we reached the house, and the moment arrived for me to meet Queen. As the gateman opened the large, imposing gates, I was greeted by a level of opulence I had never seen before. I had known that Aunty Amarachi was wealthy, having married well, but witnessing her lifestyle in person was something entirely different. The main house was a luxurious 6-bedroom duplex, and behind it stood a 2-story building with an open garage on the ground floor and staff quarters on the top floor. Surrounding both properties were gardens filled with exotic plants, lush carpet grass, and walkways and driveways paved with interlocking tiles and lined with short palm trees. Bougainvillea plants hung along the fence, adding to the estate's overall aesthetics. As Aunty Amarachi brought the car to a stop inside the garage, filled with several luxurious vehicles, a beautiful-looking girl around my age, wearing a black skirt and a peplum Ankara blouse, slowly walked towards the car. Her indifferent demeanor matched the expression on her face. She mumbled a greeting to Aunty Amarachi, glanced at me with disdain, and then moved to the boot of the car to help unload the food items that Aunty Amarachi had purchased at the village market. "This is Queen," Aunty Amarachi informed me. The introduction was unnecessary since I had already recognized Queen before Aunty Amarachi even spoke. I couldn't help but notice how beautiful she was, despite her bad attitude. Later that day, I began to understand why Aunty Amarachi wanted her to leave. Queen wasn't only difficult and argumentative, but she was also rude. I was introduced to Uncle Ugo, Aunty Amarachi's husband. He was a tall man, and though I was initially afraid of him, I quickly realized he was quiet and soft-spoken and didn't involve himself in household matters, leaving that to his wife. They had 2 small children, Adaeze, who was 18 months old, and Ikenna, who was 6 months old. They were delightful, and I quickly got involved in their feeding and other daily activities. That night, as I returned to the room I was to share with Queen in the staff quarters, she wasted no time expressing her thoughts about me. "So you're here to help Sister Amarachi do housework?" she asked, opening the conversation. "Yes, I am." She laughed. "For how long?" "I don't know. It wasn't something I had thought about before her question." She laughed again and clapped her hands. "Is this how you plan to spend your youth?" she asked. "Won't you consider going to school?" "My brother doesn't have any money to send me to school. He was planning to find some funds for me to learn a skill, but Aunty Amarachi asked me to come and help her. In return, she will send me to learn a skill." "Can't she pay for your university expenses?" she asked. "You are her blood. If she can't help you, who will she help?" "I am here to serve. Whatever she wants me to do, whether it is learning a skill or going to university, I am okay with it." "You are a big fool," she told me, "but that's your business. You can serve all your life if you want to. That life is not for me." She saw me in church and asked the pastor if I could come and stay with her to help her. Can you imagine the insult? Me, Queen? Do I look like someone's housemaid? I told the pastor no, but because she was desperate and pleading with him, and I was at home waiting to take my JAMB exams, he begged me to help out. According to him, I will be able to use the money to contribute to my education and ease some of the pressure on my parents. That's why I agreed to do it, but I regretted it from day one. She talks to me as if I am her house girl. I remind her that I am not her house girl, and I can never be anyone's house girl. I am just here to help her while I await my next steps regarding university. I didn't know how to respond, so I remained silent. She didn't notice my silence, as she was still ranting. She believes she is extraordinary because she married a wealthy man. Good for her. I am Queen, incredibly beautiful, 10 times more beautiful than she is. If she married a man this rich, I will marry someone 10 times richer. You are welcome to take the job. I will show you what to do before I leave. This is the last time I will do such a pointless job. I am going to focus on my studies, attend university, and position myself to meet a very wealthy man. I won't waste my youth and beauty changing anyone's baby's diaper. That night, I resolved to learn quickly so that Queen could leave, as I considered her a bad influence. The more I helped out, the less she needed to do. By the end of my 3rd week, Aunty Amarachi decided that we could manage without her assistance and paid her to leave. Before she departed, Queen felt the need to offer me some advice. "I've seen how hard you work and how much energy you put into everything," she began. "But you need to be wise. Ask yourself, how much are they paying you for all your efforts? They can afford to send you to school, but they promised you a skill instead, which they haven't mentioned at all. You've been here for 3 weeks now. These people only care about themselves. If you allow them, they will drain all your energy and send you back to the village without any skills or education. And you won't even have the strength to do farm work then. You will be lucky if you can still get a husband. Don't take on responsibilities that aren't yours. This is not your home, and those babies are not your responsibility." I thanked her for her advice, but inside, I rejected every negative word she had spoken. I told God that I had come to serve with all my heart, and that only good would be my reward. After she left, peace returned to the house. Aunty Amarachi no longer raised her voice, as there was no one arguing with her over every little instruction. Arguing never even crossed my mind. I lived in a beautiful room and enjoyed a level of comfort that was better than anything I had ever experienced in my parents' home or my brother's house. Queen had parents who, though poor, were better off than where I was coming from. She had the opportunity to go to school and make something of her life, so it was okay for her to act as she did. I was from the village, had endured poverty, and my brother made it clear that once I left, I had no home to return to. Although I wasn't paid for my labor, I was provided with a roof over my head, food, clothing, and a weekly stipend for hair care and personal toiletries. For this I was grateful to God and to Aunty Amarachi and her family. I didn't seek anything more. I performed my duties with humility and sincerity, day in and day out. At the end of my first year, Aunty Amarachi was preparing to go to America for a few months to give birth to her third child. Since she had become very reliant on me, she asked her husband to arrange for a passport and visa for me so that I could accompany her on the trip to America. I, Isioma, a girl from the village, who had never lived in the city until a year ago, was about to go to America. It seemed too good to be true. Even though I expressed my gratitude whenever the trip was mentioned, I did not believe it until I spoke to my brother the night before we traveled. "Isioma, I'm happy to hear that you will be traveling abroad," he said, and only then did I truly believe it would happen. "This is good news because it means you are following my advice and behaving well. Don't stop being obedient. Stay humble, stay obedient, and stay respectful." I was in America with Aunty Amarachi and the children for 6 months, and a month before our return, I almost jeopardized the opportunity I had been given. I met Afam, a taxi driver, while taking the children to the park so that Aunty Amarachi could have some time alone to rest while the baby slept. He was Igbo and from a neighboring village, and we started to meet at the park every day while I brought the children to play. I shared all about myself, and he urged me not to return to Nigeria with Aunty Amarachi and the children, but to stay and marry him. Foolishly, I went home and told Aunty Amarachi that I wouldn't be returning with her to Nigeria because a man I had grown close to over the last month and who was from a neighboring village had asked me to marry him. She nodded to indicate that she had heard me. "Ask him to come to the house to see me. I have no objections to your getting married, but the visa you have is for you to accompany me. When I return, you will need to come back with me, and then he can apply for you to enter as his fiancée or wife." When I relayed the message to Afam, he erupted in anger, saying he could not visit Aunty Amarachi. Confused by his refusal to do things properly, I returned home and made up a story about him being busy at work and unable to visit her before she left for Nigeria. She laughed dryly. Isioma, I am neither a child nor a fool. I know exactly what kind of man he is and what is happening here. However, I will not delve into that. Since you are ready to marry, as soon as we arrive in Nigeria, I will send you back to your brother so that this man or any other man can seek his permission for your hand in marriage. I dropped to my knees, tears streaming down my face as I realized how foolish I had been. Please, Aunty Amarachi, don't send me back, I pleaded. I am sorry. I was foolish. It is not time for me to marry. Let me serve. I will not mention marriage again. Fortunately, she forgave me and gave me another chance, which I truly valued. After baby Kamsi's first birthday, she informed me that I will be attending university instead of pursuing a trade. A year later, 3 years after I started serving her, I became an accounting student at the University of Lagos. I continued doing my chores around the house and taking care of the children. Still, to ease my workload, Aunty Amarachi hired an elderly widowed woman who came in on weekdays to assist with the housework. My life changed significantly, and during the 4 years I attended university, I traveled with Aunty Amarachi and her family twice a year, for 2 weeks during Easter and for 6 weeks during the summer. During one of such trips, I met Uncle Ugo's cousin, DOZ, who is now my husband. He was finishing medical school, and it was love at first sight for both of us. However, after my previous experience with Afam, I initially discouraged the relationship. After completing my studies, and as DOZ started his medical practice, Aunty Amarachi encouraged the relationship. For 2 years, I traveled frequently to America to spend time with DOZ. Then we got married, and Aunty Amarachi and her husband sponsored the wedding. DOZ and I have been married for 16 years, and we are blessed with a son and a daughter. My life is very different from what it was many years ago when I began serving Aunty Amarachi. My husband has also been generous to my brother, financing his business so that he can import spare parts and vehicles for sale. As a result, my brother now enjoys a lifestyle that closely resembles mine. Yesterday, my family and I returned home for Christmas, as is our custom. I wanted to buy eggs in bulk for cooking and baking, so my maid contacted a woman who runs a poultry farm. When she arrived to deliver the crates of eggs, I stepped outside to pay her and suddenly froze in place. Queen stood before me, but she was not the beautiful, radiant girl I had known all those years ago. Although she was only a year older than me, anyone observing her would have believed she was at least 10 years older. Her hands were wrinkled and rough, and both her fingernails and toenails were caked with dirt. She wore an Ankara scarf that matched her dress, but I noticed the exposed sides of her hair were turning grey. She looked stressed and worn out, and she carried the scent of the field and sweat. I stared at her in shock, unable to believe my eyes. The years had not been kind to her. "Your face seems familiar," she remarked. "I can't quite place it. Where have I seen you before?" "Enugu," I said, once I could find my voice. "We met at Aunty Amarachi's house." Upon hearing Aunty Amarachi's name, recognition flooded her face, and her eyes widened with each passing second. "You are..." Her voice trailed off as she struggled to recall my name. "What's your name again?" "Isioma," I said. She laughed and clapped her hands. "Yes, Isioma," she exclaimed. "Is this where you are now?" I frowned, pondering what she meant. "Yes." "Isioma," she cut me off, smiling, revealing teeth far from white, reflecting the hardships she had endured. "After all these years, you are still working for wealthy people. But it's not bad. It seems to have turned out well for you in the end. You are glowing." My husband appeared on the balcony outside our bedroom, which overlooked the front gate where I stood with Queen. "Baby, please come upstairs when you're finished. I have a surprise for you." He left before I could reply, and when I turned to look at Queen, I could see the realization dawning in her eyes. "Is this this is my matrimonial home," I said before she could finish. "That is yes, that is my husband," I replied. "It was nice meeting you again." I paid for the eggs and hurried inside to attend to my husband, my whole body shaking. But I had not seen the last of Queen. She returned later that evening, pleading for a chance to speak with me. We talked for 2 hours. Well, she mostly talked, recounting her tale of woes. Queen's life had not become the fairy tale she had once imagined. After leaving Aunty Amarachi's house, she became pregnant following a brief encounter with a charming young man who had returned to the village for Christmas and claimed to be wealthy. He eventually went back to America, and neither she nor her family ever heard from him again. Having a baby meant she could no longer attend school and had to seek employment to support her child. 5 years later, she married a widowed pastor with 2 children. Although he treated her well, he wasn't the wealthy man she had envisioned marrying, and their life was far from glamorous. As a pastor dedicated to planting rural churches, he didn't earn enough to support her and the children they had together, let alone the child she had from her previous relationship and the 2 from his prior marriage. She had started a poultry farm business to support him and their family. Queen begged me to take her eldest daughter with me to the US to serve me so that I could do for her what Aunty Amarachi had done for me. But I declined. Instead, I gave her some money to help her expand her poultry business. Her story left me in awe. Queen had boasted that she would marry well and end up wealthier than Aunty Amarachi, and I believed her because she was beautiful. But she lacked God's grace. Due to her pride, her life crumbled like a house of cards. I was grateful that I had listened to my brother, humbled myself, and served. In doing so, I received more blessings than I had ever anticipated. The end. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of episode 18 of DOZ Monologues. DOZ Monologues will return next week with another episode. If you have enjoyed this episode, please leave your comments and subscribe, like and share if listening on YouTube. To contact me, please visit my website eturuvie.erebor.com or email me at eturuvie@eturuvieerebor.com. I invite all story lovers to explore my novels and novellas available on Amazon and Google Books. For audiobook enthusiasts, they are also on Audible. Thank you for listening. I am your favorite storyteller, Eturuvie Erebor, and I'll be here next Friday with another story.